Hi, everyone. I want to talk to you today about the 7 signs that you are dealing with narcissistic abuse. And this is for you if you are not sure if who you're dealing with is a narcissist. And I'm going to give you these 7 signs to help you figure it out, but with a disclaimer that it doesn't necessarily mean that the person you're dealing with is a narcissist. It's just that these are some of the signs you can expect when you are dealing with a narcissist. And this might be a mother, a parent, or a lover. And often daughters of narcissistic mothers will grow up and find themselves in relationships with other narcissists because we've been conditioned to feel like this toxic behavior is kind of like home. We don't notice the red flags like other people do, and by the time that we do, it's too late. We're already so far into it. There's trauma bonding. There's all kinds of reasons why we are primed from when we are little, growing up in the homes that we did, to get into a relationship with a narcissist. So, depending on who you're dealing with, whether it's a family member or a romantic partner, some or all of these 7 signs might apply. So, let's dive into them. The first one is called DARVO, DARVO, and it stands for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. And this is what happens when you bring something like an issue or a concern to the narcissist or the narcissistic person. And instead of acknowledging what they've done, or at least acknowledging your feelings around it or being willing to listen, they will first off deny that they've done or said the thing that you're bringing to them. And then right away, they will attack you for bringing it to them instead of dealing with the issue at hand. And thereby, they are reversing the perpetrator and the victim. So you now become the bad guy, and they are the one who has been offended. And a simple example of this would be with the romantic partner. It could be if you have seen texting on their phone that proves that they have been cheating on you and you bring that to them. Suddenly, the issue is going to be the fact that you were going through their phone rather than what they've done. So they'll deny they've done it and then they'll accuse you of being suspicious, not trusting them because you were going through their phone. So now they are the one who's hard done by. And number two is love bombing. So this often happens in romantic relationships as well, but it can also happen with family members. And in that romance area, it usually happens at the beginning of the relationship. In fact, it almost always happens at the beginning. And it is a type of grooming. So they target you and then they give you everything you want. They kind of mirror you back to yourself. So they figure out a lot of things about you. They show a lot of interest in you. They might ask a lot of questions, which is very intoxicating for someone who's looking for attention. But all the while, they're gathering information about you so they can reflect that back to you by pretending to be all the things that you say that you are. And they use that to make you think that you're meant to be, that you're a twin flame, that he's your dream man, everything you ever wanted. How does he know me so well? When in fact, it's all just a tool that's being used to lure you in and eventually turn the tables on you and reveal who they really are. So the love bombing is something they use to put your defenses down. They'll often push boundaries in this early phase. So they'll see how far they can go with you, and you might find yourself putting your defenses down because they do what they can to gain your trust. So, because they've put on this act of being everything that you want and the perfect person for you, you might put down your boundaries early, and that's a green light for them to keep moving forward and keep on targeting you for the future abuse. And so, one of the things my narcissistic ex used to do in the very beginning is he would sit on my couch with a notebook that he had prepared questions to ask me. So he'd open this notebook and he'd say, "Oh, I had some questions I wanted to ask you." And it made me feel like I was just the center of his world. Like he was paying so much attention to me, which of course I'm human. I craved that. And it led me to believe that he was really interested in me. But in fact, he was gathering information that he would use against me later. So they really are that devious. And it's not to say that in the love bombing phase, they don't feel some affection for you. They do for sure. But they know that they can't get you by being themselves because themselves is that terrible narcissist. They are playing a part, they're playing a role in order to get you on board, get your defenses down, have you abandon your boundaries, and then they can move in and get you to a position, whether it's marriage, engagement, living together, having a child together, where it's very hard for you to get out of it. Not only because you're now trauma bonded to this person, but also just logically, logistically, physically getting out of a marriage or a partnership or a parenting situation or living together can be difficult legally as well. So they've really got you. That's number two. And number three is the good old gaslighting. You've heard me talk about this before. And gaslighting is when someone denies your experience. So they either outright lie and say perhaps that they didn't say what you're telling them that they said, they didn't do the thing you're saying that they did, or they might do things like moving your objects around when you're looking for them to watch you kind of be confused and wondering what happened to the thing I know I put right there. And then when you've kind of given up, they'll put the object back where it was without you knowing. And so it really drives you crazy. And then, of course, this comes from the movie called Gaslight from the 1930s, which I recommend you go watch if you haven't seen it already, just to see the origin of this phrase. And in this movie, the husband tries to make the wife crazy by playing with the light in the gas lamps. And when she commented on it, he pretended like they hadn't changed. So these little things are enough to drive you crazy. When your reality is not what it seems and you're being told that the things you know are true are not true, it is crazy making. And that makes you easier to control. And that's just how they want you. Number four is projection. And this is when we don't want to look at certain qualities in ourselves. And so we project them onto other people. So the narcissist will, for instance, say that you're cheating. They'll accuse you of going behind their back when in fact they are the one who's doing that. Or if they're very fearful that you are going to do that, it's because they have done that themselves. And with a narcissistic mother, you might find this kind of projection with a scapegoated child. So, with a scapegoat child, the narcissistic mother is projecting all her perceived negative qualities onto that child. So, that child is all bad in her eyes. And on the reverse side, the golden child is the one that she projects all of her positive qualities onto. So that's the child who is held in high regard and is given all the privileges that the scapegoat isn't, for example. So that's projection. Number five is control. So, with a narcissist partner or a narcissist parent, there's going to be a lot of control over your actions, over what you're allowed to say and do, even what you wear, what kind of job you have, the people that you hang out with. And if you have grown up with a narcissistic mother, you might have been dealing with this your whole life. If it is a narcissistic partner, then you're going to find that that person is isolating you so that you're in this cult of two people and there's no outside influence. So they will make you think that everybody, all your friends, all your family are not good for you, and they will start to they have ways to make you stop having contact with them, and these might be your only support systems. And so you're reliant on him now, and he is the only one who is influencing you. And so, again, this really plays with your head because you don't have any outside opinions and no one to bounce the ideas off of or to tell you that maybe there's something wrong here. You're just in your own head with what's going on with this person. And you might find that you've got the narcissist voice in your head now. Anytime you go to say something, it's not you any longer. Now it's the narcissist. Or if you're like me, the short time that I was in a narcissistic relationship, I can remember feeling like I have to be so careful about what I say because no matter how I say it, it's going to end up in an argument. So I started really censoring myself. And so there's control right there. If you're not free to say what you want in your own house, then that's a terrible form of control. So there's that. And number six is called breadcrumbing. And this is where the narcissist just gives you little glimpses of the love bombing that's no longer there. So, with love bombing, it comes about in the first phase of the relationship if we're talking about romance. And then when he's got you, that ends and it becomes the opposite, so that now you're being demonized and controlled, and your life is being made into a living hell. But once in a while, he will drop a breadcrumb of that old, loving, and kind self. So, example, I remember my ex would get into arguments with me over everything I said. And there would be these circular arguments that I just could not that I wanted to win, but I just couldn't resolve. Because the point of arguing for a narcissist is not to resolve. It's only for them to be right, or for them to create chaos, or for them to make you feel crazy or to exhaust you. The point is not to resolve the argument, it's to actually keep it going. And they can keep it going for hours and hours because you're just hoping to say the right thing to get the resolution. And I would end up being so exhausted, I would just say, like, I need to stop. And so that would be at night, and I would go to bed. And before I went to bed, he would like come and give me a hug, you know? And so I would feel like, oh, wow, that feels really good because you never get it. Or if he used to be really affectionate and he wanted to be with you all the time in an intimate way. And then all of a sudden he pulls away. Like I heard someone recently say that her husband hadn't touched her in 30 years. And so this is the kind of stuff that goes on. Like someone's very affectionate at first and then they withdraw everything. But once in a blue moon, they'll just drop a little hug or they'll say something nice to you. Or if they never compliment you, they'll drop like a little, you look nice today. And because you never get it, it's like water in the desert. It feels so good even though in a normal relationship that would not be sufficient, that would not be enough. But because you're starving, any little bit of food is going to you're going to feel so grateful for that. And that's how they string you along and keep you hooked in as well. And the final one, number seven, is the Jekyll and Hyde. So this is where they start out being perfect. They start out like being Mr. Nice Guy. And then as soon as they've got you, they turn. So I've described that already. But there's another form of Jekyll and Hyde that can sometimes happen in the same interaction. So they'll seem happy, they'll seem fine, and then all of a sudden they'll turn. You've said something that triggered them, and they'll just turn and become a different person right before your eyes. So if you've noticed that, this very turning on a dime, becoming a totally different person, it's because the mask has slipped. It's hard for them to keep that mask in place. And sometimes I think about how much effort it must take for them during the love bombing phase to keep the mask in place. But soon enough, it does fall. And that's when Mr. Hyde comes out and shows you who he really is. And when I say who he really is, it's still a false persona, because we don't know who the narcissist is. Everything is covering up. So the mask, which is the fake nice guy, is a real cover up. But even the narcissistic personality is a cover up for the shame underneath. So the narcissistic personality arises to protect their ego from any kind of shame. And that's why they feel like they always have to be right. They can never apologize. They can never admit that they've done anything wrong. They don't take accountability. They are not interested in growth. They're not interested in connection, only power and control. This is all protecting that true inner self that we may never get to see, and they may never get to see either, because they so very rarely get therapy that works. If they do go into therapy, it's usually just to appease someone else, and they'll end up tricking the therapist or just playing a game to try and win people over, turning on the charm and all that kind of stuff. So the true self underneath may never be found. But they do have that black and white mentality. So that's the reason why they can't admit to any wrongdoing, because if they did, that would mean they were all bad, just like the scapegoat child that they project all their negative qualities onto. And that's why they cannot take any kind of criticism, even anything that might remotely resemble criticism, anything that's like feedback, even, they can't take it, because anything that chips at that armor that says, I'm perfect, I'm the best, is going to be kind of devastating to that false persona that they've erected to protect whatever is underneath. So, those are my 7 signs of narcissistic abuse. I hope they've been helpful, and I will link to a blog post below where you can read more. Thank you for listening.